Good afternoon. Welcome to Sunset Rewind. My name is Charlie Brand. On Sunset Rewind, we're going to have the series of podcasts with each of the boys volleyball coaches from the Sunset League and many of the volleyball players from the Sunset League. I'm joined by my partner, Taryn Rodriguez. Our guest today, and we're very fortunate to have him, is Craig Pisani from Huntington Beach High School. He's a legendary coach, and he always gives a great podcast.
I think to start off, last year's season was a great success. Even though we didn't win that final game, getting into a 5-setter in the CIF Finals against Miracosta, who was supposed to be the unbeatable team, and I think we gave them everything they wanted last year. And so I just think to draw back on the experience that we have a lot of guys who did get to play in that match, and it wasn't they were just playing, they were integral pieces of what we were doing. You know, they were getting the swings late in games, they were in serve receive late in the game. So I think to be able to draw on that experience, even though we're still a relatively young team that we're going to put out there, we got a lot of kids that were sophomores that were on the floor. So I just think that experience, along with some of the younger guys that'll now kind of push themselves into more leadership role, hopefully it's a good combination that allows us to be successful this year.
As I said earlier, you've got basically your 4 kind of pin players. You've got the 2 outside hitters, Logan, Hutnick, and Colin Choi. Mm-hmm. You've got your big right side bomber, Ben Agrayo, and then you also have your backup libero back, who was really good, especially as the season went on. It leaves the graduating holes to fill in the middle, and you've got a number of guys there. But also I'd like to talk about you and developing setters.
We've been super fortunate to have some really great players come through Huntington. And just if you look at from when I first came in and took over when Rocky decided to be done at Huntington after Tony graduated, super fortunate to have. We started with Ben Simon, and then it correlated into Matt Butler, who had a career at Long Beach State, which turned into Josh Tuaniga, who we all know was NCAA Player of the Year and a 2-time national champion, into Aiden Knipe, who played in 3 Final Fours at Long Beach State, into Jake Pisani, Will Lawler, who's currently at Santa Barbara, and then got fortunate enough to coach my son, who's now starting at Long Beach State, and then Kai Gann, who's now playing at Harvard. We've had some guys come through. So when you talk about developing them, I feel like that was kind of my brain working as a setter when I played, even though I wasn't big and physical like a lot of these guys. Just understanding the game that Rocky taught me and trying to teach them how to understand the game. And we always use the terminology, we want to be playing chess, not checkers, always thinking one step ahead. And sometimes we'll do stuff early in the year to set up stuff that's going to happen late in the year, and when we're running offense. So really fortunate. We have 4 setters on the team this year, but 2 guys right now kind of battling for that spot. We have junior Rowan Silenitz, who was a transfer last year, came in last year, sat out part of the season, and has really been working hard. And then we also have Carter Tchaikovsky, who's just been tremendous. He started for our U17 team, our national team that went on and won a bronze medal this year. Growing
for USA.
For USA, yes. Growing well above 6'5" now, and is one of the top setters in his recruiting class. So, while it's always tough to win when you don't have that senior leadership at the setter position, those 2 guys are doing a great job in the gym, and I think they're going to be tremendous for us this year.
Oftentimes your seniors are your leaders, but it doesn't always have to be that way. A lot of times your setters are really the leaders just because of the demands of the position.
Yeah, and we'll look to a lot of different guys, and we're starting to develop that now. We're a couple weeks into practice at this point and trying to see, who's going to be taking over some of those leadership roles. We've had a really good start to the season too from Asher Mitchell, who had been an outside hitter, kind of converted into a libero, and is going to battle in that spot this year too, but been on the team for 3 years. Logan Hutnick has played almost every meaningful point for us since his freshman year, and he's starting his junior year now. He started as a middle blocker for us his freshman year, 200 kills as a freshman. Last year, over almost 600 kills.
I was mentioning that you have all these seniors out there, and I said, they're all seniors, and my friend Taryn said, "No, Hutnick's only a junior."
Yes.
the answer man, but he's been starting since his freshman year.
For sure.
He's like a senior out there, even though he's a junior.
And then you have other guys that kind of and as we're developing this stuff with this leadership stuff, it's not always the vocal guy, right? Because Colin Choi is like a silent assassin out there. He just goes about his business and does it as good as anybody in that role. He's a perfect OH2. He can pass, play defense. His offense came around last year, had some really big spots for us. And even though he's not the most vocal guy out there, he's doing it with example. And you're going to see a lot of that stuff too this year.
I love watching Colin play. He's so intense and he doesn't say much.
Yeah, but very steady, very steady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about Logan? Talk to us about coaching Logan all these years.
I've been fortunate enough that he's played for us and started since his freshman year. I've also had the opportunity to work with him, outside of high school on the club team for the last 2 years as well. So, the transition from middle blocker to outside hitter became a lot smoother because it was a lot of the same terminology that he was getting year round. He's a tremendous athlete. I don't think there's anything physically that he can't do. And there's nobody in that class that I would take over him. He's like I said, he's a freak athlete. He's a student of the game. He really wants to be great. Recently committed to USC for that class of 2027. Like I said, he started for our U19 junior youth national team this year. And just a pleasure to be around, as a lot of these guys are. They're a really good group, and I think our cohesion is going to be our strength this year. A lot of guys who really enjoy playing the game with each other. They're hanging out outside of volleyball, and we're hoping that can kind of help drive this thing.
Having watched you for years, I think that a lot of those guys enjoy playing for you and playing with your style.
I know I've said the name Rocky a ton, and I've tried to keep the tradition and stuff that he created at Huntington Beach High School. Just the family that we create, and it's the Euler family. And I felt like I played as hard as I could for him because I didn't want to disappoint him, and I'm trying to just be that same influence for these guys. And I think when Rocky played at Huntington and coached at Huntington. I played at Huntington. I coached at Huntington. Like Drake Evans is on my coaching staff. He played at Huntington, is now coaching at Huntington. So when you get that feedback from guys who really care about the program, I think you instill that with the guys who are in the program now. And a lot of guys, when we brought Drake on, Drake was arguably part of the greatest high school volleyball team of all time, right? I mean, 121 wins in a row, and that was a lot of the questions. What was it like? How was it with these guys? And what did you guys do? And so having that experience to draw on, it's easy for them to hear it from me, who was on the sideline, but I think it's different when you have a guy who went through it and was battle tested in that same environment and playing for the same guy. So, while we talk about being more or older or more mature, however you want to put it, a lot of people say that I've softened up a little bit as a coach as I've gotten older. But the bottom line is the demands are still the same, right? We're off school today, but we're in the gym at 8 a.m. practicing today. You miss out on a lot of holidays, you miss out on a lot of weekend stuff, but it's got to be a priority. And I tell them if it's not number one, it's got to be somewhere in the top three, and with church and with school or family, whatever it is, it's got to be somewhere up there where it's got to mean something. And when we don't win or we're not successful, it's got to hurt just a little bit. And I think that's what we're trying to instill in our program.
Great lessons for life.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
At this stage in the season, I know it's early, but what would you say are the weaknesses and the strengths of this program?
Without spilling too much, by the way.
Yeah, Craig's not going to spill too much.
The way that, first of all, about spilling too much, there's not a lot that everybody doesn't know about everybody. These guys are all playing against each other year round, right? So there's going to be some different wrinkles that people throw out there, but we know the personnel, right? So from a strength point, and I think we talked about this before we came on air, is just the depth of this group. We have a lot of guys who can play at a high level. And I think you'll see a lot of teams that are really good, 1 through 6, 1 through 7, 1 through 8. But how does the practice gym stack up, and how much better are we getting every day in practice if there's no one that can compete on the other side? Well, I think this roster is deep, 1 through 14, 1 through 15, 1 through 16. and our practices are going to be competitive. And I was talking just today in practice just about how thin the margins are between the guy who's starting and the guy who might be the third or fourth guy in that spot. So every day, the strength of this team is we're competing against three people. We're competing against ourselves, we're competing against our teammates and our opponents every day in practice. And that's what we talk about in the gym every day. And if everybody's grinding every day to try to earn some playing time, we're going to be a lot better at the end of the season than a lot of other teams. So that would be a strength.
That's a key.
The weakness then, obviously, is there's only 6 guys on the court. There's only one ball. So and like I said, I've lived in this situation before where, there's one guy that's getting a lot of the press clippings, right? And sometimes you don't see a lot of the other stuff going on. So it's can we stay in the moment and understand that we are 21, 22 deep versus everybody is just as important, right? And the guy who is shagging a ball in a drill or the guy who's on the B side grinding to make the A side better, it's all part of what we're doing to be great. So as long as we get that buy-in and that doesn't become a weakness, I think we're going to be in good shape. But obviously that's always going to be, it's a problem, but I'd rather have that problem than not have enough talent for sure.
Well, again, that's a great lesson just to have that whole buy-in from everybody.
Yeah.
That's you. You talk about everybody knows everybody else. Back in the days coaching against Dan Glenn, we used to call him multi-plan Dan because there was and a fellow, another Huntington Beach Oiler, by the way.
For sure.
Every time you'd scout him, you'd have it all written down, and then you look at the lineup he has and you go, who's that?
Yeah. Yeah. I said, I think it's harder nowadays because everyone playing club, right? I just know before everyone was playing all the time, and yeah, of course, as a coach, you want to have a couple wrinkles that you don't show, right? We're not going to show them in February and March because we want to use them in May, in April and May. So,
and that's what we figured out. Know that there's inconsistency.
For sure.
Know that multi-plan is going to have multiple plans.
Right, and he still does, by the way.
Oh yeah, no, he hasn't lost that at all. How about your consistent coaching staff? That's another part of your success, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is like year 19 as the head coach for me, and I've had Chelsea Olsen with me doing the JVs for a while now, and before that it was Tina Bowman and Dennis Masuda. There haven't been a lot of coaches going through the program and I think I said something earlier about since Rocky took over in 84, 85 at Huntington, there's been two coaches on the boys' side, right? Him and myself, and there's something to be said for that, right? I mean, you know what you're going to get when you come into school. You can take a look at the program coming in, and when there's not a ton of turnover, you're allowed to have a little bit of consistency, right? And by no fault of a program that has new coaches, the new coach wants it to be their program, right? So I've been lucky enough to have a lot of people who've wanted to stay involved with the program and who do a good job and train the kids at a younger age. So when they do get to the varsity, if they're not coming straight to the varsity as freshmen or sophomores, it's not rebuilding every year. It's just kind of stacking blocks on top, and that's the good foundation we've had.
When you have the number of seniors that you have playing, that's a testimony to your program, developing that desire to be a part of it all the way through the end.
Yeah, and we do, and I don't like to cut guys if they've been in the program, and that's why you end up seeing a varsity team with 20, 21 guys, and even if those seniors, I will still talk to some of those guys at our alumni game that were a part of those teams in 13, 14, 15, and 16 who may have never stepped on the court, and winning those championships was just as important to those guys because they put in the grind, they grinded, and that's the thing that's hard sometimes is the crowd and the fans and stuff don't get to see the work that all those other guys put in, but it's just as important because without those guys, we don't get better. So I've always been about making it about the entire group,
right?
And trying to stay away from the little cliques that develop and things like that. And it's just it's a realism that just happens, sometimes, and you try to nip it in the bud as much as you can and try to keep it team focused and team oriented versus individual.
I noticed that one of your new assistant coaches is a good name in volleyball, Chris Costi.
Mm-hmm.
Brother coaches at Stanford. He was a great player himself at University of Hawaii and Fountain Valley, and he's with you. I think that's got to help too.
Yeah, I mean, just to have another volleyball mind to run things by that's been around it. I mean, and his wife also was a standout at Long Beach State, so. to have Chris in our gym. He's helping with our lower levels, and he'll help a little bit with the varsity. But and his kids, they moved here from back to California from Washington. Keno is with our varsity. His son, who's a junior, and you'll see some good things from him this season as well. Definitely a good addition to our program.
And a great family man. Great.
Couldn't ask for somebody that will help us, with no strings attached. He just wants to see what's best for. It's funny because he always said he wished he would have gone to Huntington, when he was in high school. So I think having his kids there is maybe living a little vicariously through Keno and through Coley, his two kids.
Parents do that,
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Taryn, what do you have to say here?
So I actually want to take it back 2 years ago from when you all played Newport. You were down 0-2. It was Jake's senior night. Logan was starting middle, but then you threw him to the outside. What was kind of like your game plan after those first two sets? Or did you just say, we got to put Logan at outside, otherwise we're not going to win this one?
Well, I think we hadn't done it much. That wasn't two-plan Dan right there. That was actually Albert, and I was lucky enough to have another one of my mentors, Albert Gasparian, coach with me for Jake's senior year, and you can't get any more legendary than Albert when it comes to volleyball. So I give a lot of thanks to both Rocky and Albert for helping create the coach that I am today. But I think that our plan was a lot like you said. We're not going to win like this, so let's make an adjustment. And a lot of that had to do with Bennett Tchaikovsky getting hurt early in the year. So him not being able to play most of the season until the playoffs, left us a void in that outside hitter spot. So, we knew that the transition was going to be Logan to the left at some point in his career. We figured let's give it a shot, and he definitely came through with a pretty big night that night for us. So, and I think it was a prelude of things to come in the future.
That might have been the most amazing decision you've ever made. And that I always call that the Logan Hutnick legacy game, even though that was Jake's senior night as well as Aiden Dubnow's senior night and Bennett Tchaikovsky's senior night. But I will always refer to that as the Logan Hutnick legacy game.
Well, if that's what brought it out, that's what brought it out. But like I said, I know that he had done some great stuff for us in the middle of that year, and we just needed to make a change, and it was definitely paid off for us.
That's kind of, you see a lot of that happening. A good athletic freshman comes in, everything else is kind of filled on the other positions, and you put them in the middle. April Ross, the same story. Mm-hmm. She was a middle, and then Dan Glenn moved her to the outside as a junior or sophomore. The rest is well, I think a lot of it too is you go from playing on the 7-4 net as an 8th grader, right? You go from throwing your chest and belly button over the net, on the women's net, and the game is faster. You go from playing 14U to playing against a bunch of guys who are playing 18U, so just the speed of the game. And although middle is one of the most demanding positions, it's a lot of see-ball, block ball, right? It's just react. And so there's not a lot of, you don't have to do a ton of, you're not passing, right? You're not having to, a lot of times you're not serving, because you got the libero coming in for you. So I think the big physical athlete, it's an easier transition to go into the middle. And then once they get a little more skill as far as passing the ball, playing some defense, learning more about volleyball, you can kind of make those decisions. Are we going to move them or are we not going to move them? And a feel for the adjustment to the speed of the game.
For sure.
Let's talk about your schedule. And we're going to talk about the extremely competitive Sunset League schedule, but let's just look at your out of league games. You've got Loyola, Servite, great San Clemente, all very, very good teams.
Yeah.
Then you go to the Best of the West, which is a great tournament down in Poway, in San Diego. The Best of the West means there's a lot of good teams there. Mm-hmm. And I know you like to play everybody good that you can, see everybody.
Yeah, for us, to win, right? And we're not talking about winning a match or winning this or winning that. To win the whole thing, you got to be battle tested, And I think that was part of the remarkable part about winning 121 matches in a row 10 years ago, right? Is the fact that we weren't playing a light schedule. We weren't ducking anybody. We were playing as competitive teams as we could play. And that's what everybody in Southern California does as far as volleyball. Sometimes in different sports, you'll see people, football maybe, you play one or two good games and all the rest of the games you're going to kill everybody until you get to the playoffs, right? So I think that it's important to understand how competitive Southern California volleyball is, and then also to be the best, you got to play the best, right? So I want to see everybody. I'm sure that they want to see us, and they want to see everybody. So you can really coach, right? You can start to make some adjustments and see what teams are doing. And I've never been one to try to lighten up the schedule, and it is good every once in a while if you get to play a team that might not be as strong because, like I said, with 21 guys, you want to get guys in games, and you want to, and hopefully that's not a huge issue because I said we're pretty competitive 1 through whatever this year. But yeah, I mean, best of the West, and then we're going to travel to Hawaii and play in the Clash of the Titans with some really great teams there. We're going to play Sandra Day O'Connor at home in a 1-match deal. So yeah, we try to play the best possible schedule we can play, and hopefully, it gets us battle tested for when we get to the playoffs in May.
Let's talk about the middle tournament in your schedule, the 3 tournaments. The Ciarelli Challenge. Now, we've talked about how much Rocky meant to you and to all of us for the game. Yep. Tell us about the history of this. Tell us about story. Tell us about the teams.
Well, the history of it is we decided that we wanted to honor Rocky. We wanted to do it with a tournament originally. That was kind of the thought process. But
and by the way, Rocky passed away unexpectedly about 3 years ago.
Yeah, it was devastating to
a lot of people.
Myself, I'm sure all of you guys, and the volleyball community in general. But he meant so much to the sport. He coached at 3 different places. He coached at Edison, he coached at Huntington, and he coached at Newport. And those are the 3 teams that host matches for this challenge. And those have been the 3. Those will continue to be the 3 as long as they want to stay involved, and as long as I'm in charge of running it. And we'll always, even though his final match was at Newport, the Huntington match will always be the finale because he spent most of his career at Huntington and he went to Huntington. So it's just a way that we can honor Rocky, honor his family. He's actually being inducted into the Indoor Volleyball Hall of Fame this year, which is a huge honor, and excited about being able to. I wish it would have been where he could have enjoyed it, but I know his family is looking forward to that as well. So this year, Edison will play the 10 a.m. match against Tesoro, and then Redondo will play Newport in the noon match, and then Huntington will play Sandra Day O'Connor from Arizona in the 2 o'clock match. And it'll be back to back to back. It's a great event. Long Beach State dedicates their alumni game to Rocky, who also played at Long Beach State. And there's a great image that they use, and we borrowed that image as well that go on shirts for all the guys of him coaching. Mm-hmm. And it was a look that when you see the image, I wish I would have had that shirt with me today just to show you. But
I can probably do
it is
impersonation. It's like
it is typical. It is a typical Rocky. Because I'll tell you this: I've never been around a guy who knew more about the game than him. And if he always told me that if you're going to question a call, be right, because if you question every call, they're not going to listen to you. So when Rocky argued, I would say he was right 99% of the time because there's not a lot that got by him.
Yeah, but again, so many people, not just players for him, but in the coaching cadre, loved him and what he brought to the game.
He was a selfless guy. He did whatever he could to help everybody in the volleyball community.
Absolutely. And then your last tournament is the Clash of the Titans in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
You happen to like going to Hawaii.
Just trying to play the best teams, Charlie.
Yeah.
If it takes me to Hawaii, it takes me to Hawaii.
Yeah, right.
So no, we enjoy every other year, Charlie. Okay. Every other year. So we enjoy going out there, and Coach Toon at Punahou does a good job of running a great event out there. It's expanded. It used to be a challenge where you used to just play the 2 Hawaii teams on back-to-back nights, but now it's become an actual 8-team tournament. So we'll go out there and we'll get a chance. Miracosta will be out there as well as Sandra Day O'Connor and Punahou and some other great teams. So we're looking forward to going out there again and representing Huntington Beach High School the best we can.
Interesting. In 1977, I took my Newport Harbor team to play in Hawaii against Punahou, Iolani, Kamehameha, and then came back. Life goes on. In 2011, I thought nobody has taken a team back to Hawaii, so I called Rick Toon and said, "Hey, we'll come over in Corona del Mar, and we want to play Iolani and Punahou." So that was the beginning of the Clash of the Titans.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That's good. Well, good. So you're giving back to volleyball.
Oh, yeah. No, just glad that I was able to be a part of it.
Yep.
So let's talk about Sunset League.
It's, again, you'd be hard-pressed to find a better league in the United States than the Sunset League every single year. And if you go back, I think the Sunset League's won 9 of the last 12 or 13, or you could probably tell me. 9 of the last 13 Division One titles between Huntington, Corona Del Mar, and Newport. But you have those 3 teams. You have Edison, who's much improved. You have LaSalle, who's much improved, and new coaches at both those places. Trent coming back to Edison makes them obviously more competitive. Katie Daly at Corona Del Mar is an ultimate competitor. Pat now new coach at Newport Harbor.
Katie Thompson.
Sorry, I meant Katie Thompson. Thank you very much. New mom, right?
Yes.
So and then Tony Panzica taking over at Los Alamitos. It's just there's no easy nights. There's no easy nights in the Sunset League, and you get in the gym and you look around, and every guy is competing at a high level, and a lot of guys are going on to play in college, whether it's Division I, Division II, NAIA, junior college. There's just a lot of great volleyball players in the Sunset League, and we're going to come in there and we're going to do everything we can to try to win it again. But you look at Corona Del Mar, they bring back 6 starters from last year. You look at Newport, they bring back a bunch. The league was pretty young last year, not just us, but everybody. So Edison was really young last year, and they're going to come in and do some really good things. So we just got to get up every single night, and I think that's the hardest part about playing in the Sunset League is you play Wednesday, Friday, and you only get a day to prep in between, and you can't really prep too much for the Friday match before a Wednesday match. Sometimes in some leagues, if you're not playing a great opponent on a Wednesday and you're going to play on a Friday, you can start your prep for that Friday match. In the Sunset League, there's no doing that. So
yeah, and I think that's one of the hardest things when you play in a league with just a couple tough teams and some teams that aren't very good. You have to adjust your thinking to stay focused all the time. This way, you can't afford to lose your focus against anybody.
Yeah, and we kind of got a motto where and it's instilled from me. I'm really close with I coach the club team with one of the Long Beach State assistant coaches, so I've been kind of learning a lot about how they run things, and just to play the game one way. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter who's on the other side. It doesn't matter if you're up 24-0 or it's 27-all. Play the game one way. Respect your opponent by playing as hard as you can, no matter what the score is. So
McKay Smith's pretty good.
McKay Smith. He's a big influence on what I'm doing now as well.
I love it. Marina has been a real up-and-coming program, both in the boys and the girls.
Yes.
Yeah, they returned like a bunch of their roster from last year because most of them was comprised of sophomores. And you got to remember, Fountain Valley had a surprise year. They won, I think, every non-conference game, and then they wound up being competitive Sunset League. They made the playoffs in Division II, which I think, and they also won 20 matches last year. So Rebecca Cheltenham deserves her flowers too. Sunset League is going to be good. 6 teams made the playoffs. There's
no easy matches. Marina was young, like you said, was young. Fountain Valley may have the best middle blocker in the league. I mean, he could play. I don't have the name off the top of my head, but their middle blocker is phenomenal. I'm sure they're probably going to try to maybe move him to a pin, like we talked about, get him the ball a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You come into these matches in the Sunset League, and even if you think it's the team that might finish 6th or 5th or whatever it is, they still got a couple guys that can play, and if they get hot, they're gonna compete with anybody. So it's a pleasure to be a part of this league and know that you get to bring your best every single night.
Yeah, serving always becomes a factor
for sure.
And if someone can just crank it again, focus is directly related to passing well, and so you got to stay focused on that. I something that I'm really interested in, I follow about my friend Craig Pizzanti, is his son Jake. He's the starting setter at Long Beach State. I've watched him grow up, and it's just exciting to see that development on that guy. And he's a wonderful, personable young man also.
Well, for me,
his mom must have been good.
His mom must have been super athletic. Got all his genetics there. Let me see if I say this right. I coached Jake pretty much at every sport he played from the time he was 5 years old till the time he graduated high school. It's so enjoyable just to sit back and be a dad in the stands. And I gave him everything I had, and now he's learning much, much beyond what I can give him. And not that I don't know enough, but like I said, sometimes you've heard enough from Dad, and he's got some great people there taking care of him, and his passion for the game, his competitiveness. Hopefully, I can say that I helped out with that part of it. But like I said, it's super enjoyable to watch Nick and McKay, and that program Amir now, right?
Matt Prosser.
And Prosser, JP. Those guys are doing things in the volleyball gym that, even though I've been doing it 30 years, I'm learning from guys much younger than me now. The game's evolving and changing, and I couldn't be prouder of him as a dad, but just being able to watch him thrive in that environment and being a part of a national championship winning team, even if it was as a redshirt. He was super excited, and he's worked super hard to get to the point where he's at. So I'm, like I said, proud of him and fun to watch him in that environment.
Taryn, you always have another question.
So you mentioned the evolution of volleyball. How do you think the game of volleyball has changed from back in your day all the way up till now? Not just on the court, but off the court too.
Well, first of all, I think there was like one volleyball club in the area at the time, and Charlie was running it in the 80s. And so these guys are playing a million more matches, and they talk about the progression of like football, because these guys are playing these 7-on-7 leagues, and they're so much more advanced when they go into college or even into high school, because they've just done it so much more than anybody did before. So as far as the state of the game, it's not super even similar to what it looked like in the 80s when I was playing. The guys are bigger and stronger and faster. The ball is moving faster. I can't imagine having to referee it without the replay system. It goes so fast, and the guys are so much more athletic. So how has the game changed? We played regular score to 15. I remember playing for about an hour, and the score would be 3-3 in the first set, right?
I love those days.
Yeah. So I think they changed the game to keep it on pace and to give it maybe some TV credibility, knowing more of an actual time slot that it was going to fit in. We couldn't pass with our hands. The ball couldn't hit the net on the serve. There was no libero. Setters had to actually know how to set the ball without it spinning. There was the game is completely different, and I'm not saying it's changed for the worse. I'm just saying it's a lot different, and I think that we have a lot bigger, stronger, faster athletes playing our sport now than we did 25, 30 years ago.
Absolutely.
And then the evolution of technology and social media has kind of been a part of the buzz when it comes to volleyball as well.
Well, yeah, and I feel like guys, the reason that I feel like I know a lot about the game strategically and preparation-wise is because I had guys that had the brain of the analytics that people are using now. Rocky and Albert and Danny, they were so far ahead of everybody else in this area when it came to high school volleyball, of the preparation side. And the stuff that analytics are telling you now, they could just watch a match and they knew, So that's how I've tried to do it too. Someone will say, "Did you see the stats on that match?" I go, "No, but I watched it and this is what I saw," So I do feel like, with all sports now, analytics, that buzzword analytics, what are we supposed to do on 4th and 1? We're supposed to go for it. No, take the points and maybe you win the game. I don't know. I just feel like a lot of the feel of the game is gone. And like I said, I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing or a good thing. It's just changed.
I see.
That's what's fun in the game, though, is the emotion and the gamesmanship. All
the late blocking sub maybe that you wouldn't have made, or something like that. So
which never works. No, I'm kidding.
Well, the guy always misses the serve, so you never know if it was going to work.
And
so
then sells it back out again.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, I just I love. I mean, call me what you want to call me, volley nerd or whatever. I like that side of the game. I like picking out tendencies and looking at things from different angles and different views, and talking about it with guys who have kind of grown up in the game with me. Some of my best friends. Isaac Owens, Gus Culver, these guys who I played with or I coached with early in my career, and now those are the guys that I bounce stuff off of. I'm sure just like Rocky and Danny and Albert and Tom Pestalacci and Mike D'Alessandro, all Oilers by the way, were doing back then. So I cherish those relationships that I have because it's just more opinion. I don't want assistant coaches that are just going to be yes guys. I want guys that are going to challenge me and girls that are going to challenge me and say, no, we need to do this because of this. Allie Torline, who's been with me on the girls' side forever, is just like that too. Always wondering why we're doing stuff, not just agreeing because I'm saying it's okay. And I think those are the type of people you want to work with, and they allow your program to excel.
Well, your program has definitely excelled. We're looking forward to watching him this year again. Craig Pizzotti from Huntington Beach High School, one of the top guys, and as you can tell from the podcast, one of the class acts in volleyball.
Thanks, you guys, for having me.
Hold on, wait. And I just gotta say that finals match was absolutely amazing that I went to last year. I know it didn't turn out your way, but it left the fans wanting more.
Was that Miracosta?
Yeah, at Miracosta
Huntington,
at
Huntington Beach.
Yeah, at Cerritos College. So it was amazing. So definitely keep an eye on the Oilers here. Thank you so much for being part of this, Craig. We appreciate it. And thank you to everyone for watching this. We appreciate your support of Sunset Rewind. Thank you to Charlie for leading the way. And once again, thank you to Craig. Thank you to Max Pickup, the man behind the glass, for producing this. Also, thank you to Cole Menzinger, Murphy Cargis, James Krupe, and Nate Gervin. We appreciate everyone's support. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. We really want your support. We're trying to reach 10,000 subscribers. With your help, we can definitely do so. And also follow Sunset Rewind on social media at Sunset_Rewind on X, Instagram, and TikTok. We'll be back with more of these in the near future. But yeah, take care, everybody.